This video is our presentation of Alcatel-Lucent, the New York Stock Exchange company, trading our ticker ALU. This chart had a real nice move. It's got a pretty solid bottom support right here around $1.40. Nice climb, a little over 20%, up to hit $1.71. Fell back down the last couple days. I think this is one still to keep an eye on to see if it's going to come back down to the bottom support or see if it's going to try and make a higher low right through here and potentially try and put together another climb like it did back here at the end of December and into the beginning part of 2012. Just judging by the RSI, it'd be safe to assume the indicators are going to be showing a nice pullback because the stock has fallen from $1.71 down to yesterday's close to $1.57. You can see because of this pullback, we are seeing a little bit of fade in the MACD histogram, but overall still seeing an uptrend back towards zero in the MACD. Same way with the PPO. ADX very neutral at this point. Negative DI got a jump the last couple days because of the selling pressure, but the ADX itself is down pretty low, just not getting a lot from that. There's not a lot of strength in any direction. MFI is pulling back. Importantly, I just look for them to try and hold over top of 50. See how bearish they were here for several months, holding the lower half of the indicator. It's never a good sign. But now the push back through 50, I just look for a rotation. And for those components try and hold the upper half, it's a much more bullish position. Accumulation distribution, still on a bit of a downward path, even though recently is trying to push back up a little bit early on, but that trend would really need to continue. Chaikin money flow registering right around zero. Buying and selling pressure over the last 20 periods is about equal. CCI, pretty simple. Buy point, sell point. That's per definition of the CCI. And all I really look for, uptrends, holding the upper half of the indicator, and a break back through 100 would mean that indicator is dropping another buy signal. Similarly, full stow measures momentum, breaking back down through 80. A good sign of strength in the full stow is if it will curl and make a run right back up through 80. In the grander scheme, it's still bullish as long as it can hold over top of 50. But if it can curl right here around this 65, 70 mark and break back through 80, that's a sign of some strong momentum staying in the play despite the pullback. The tricks, it's a lagging indicator, but it dropped a bullish cross. Could be identifying an overall shift in trend for the chart. As I mentioned, the RSIs have pulled back. The 21, this red line, never even made the break through 50, and that's something that I always want to see. And the reason for that can be shown right through here. Stock was just kind of puttering along at a bottom. When the 21 finally made the break through 50, it just shows some stronger momentum in the play. And even though it pulled back down, it held that 50 mark and continued on the upward path, and price per share had a real nice climb to it. And then similarly, it was on a downward path, tried to hold 50 a couple different times. That's where some little bounces happened. But when it finally caved in, broke below it, price per share dropped off real hard. So what I'd be looking for is that 21 RSI at this point to try and make the push and break through the 50 mark. As far as the candles go, as I mentioned, there's a nice bottom support right down here around $1.40. Of course, ultimately, that's what I'd want to see hold. But there's a little bit more support right into this $1.50 area. You see it bounced off 153 yesterday. So I'll be looking for some strength right around this point now, because it may not seem like much, but if it can't hold that $1.50, the odds are pretty great that it's going to drop another dime and come down here and hit the $1.40 and potentially even break through that bottom support, even though it's a very strong area. So that's one reason I think it's worth watching closely today to see if it's going to hold the $1.50 and try and make another push upward. See how the $1.70 area of resistance tied right back in with some historic resistance. Still a gap unfilled up to $1.76. And a pretty key area because the 50-day moving average is coming down and going to add dynamic resistance to that point. That would be the first strong area of resistance I see. After that, right up around $2. So there's a pretty nice upside of almost 20% if it can break through this resistance to go up here and challenge the next resistance around $2. Now anything beyond that, I'd look for the 200-day moving average and also some static resistance because of the old support level around $2.20. And then of course top end up around $2.60. But I'm not that concerned with that now. Right now I'm just looking at to see if it's going to hold some support levels, try and curl and make a higher low, and take a run through this $1.70 to continue to identify a shift to trend. And I'd be looking for the momentum indicators to move into more bullish positions. It's a New York Stock Exchange play. Volume is not an issue at all. Over 20 million shares traded, so liquidity is no concern. I'll just have my eyes peeled on these support and resistance levels and see where this goes from here. As always, merely my interpretation of the ALU chart. Thank you for watching and trade smart.